We know that there were hundreds of rabbis making disciples during the time of Christ. The same word has been chosen by Jesus of those who follow him. We know that a rabbi, in inviting a young man to be a disciple, would say, "Follow me," or he might say, "Take my yoke on you." Well, we know both of those texts are also in the Bible. So Jesus utilizes the same language in inviting people to him. Of course, he invited children and invited women as well, which was different. Of all these disciples, as we look at both the literature of rabbis and also the Bible, I would say there are 5 characteristics that were true of any Christ follower or disciple of any rabbi. Jesus had several others added to it, but these 5 were foundational. Number 1, every disciple was totally submitted to his rabbi. What his rabbi said, he would do. Obedience was key to it. Submitting your will to that of your rabbi was vital. Number 2 is total mastery. Unlike today, where we have many aids to writing, remembering what is being taught, back then, all they had was papyrus, vellum, or the inside of skins, and pottery. Very difficult to do much with that. The rabbis absolutely forbade their disciples from writing down what they were teaching. Instead, they were to be mastered mentally and shared orally among the group. So every disciple was to master completely the teaching of his rabbi. So the disciples of Jesus did this. And that's what Jesus meant when he talked about abiding in my teaching or in my word. The third characteristic is total understanding. There were different rabbis, of course, with different nuances of interpretation to the Old Testament or the law of God. Jesus had his own. The disciples of Jesus were to totally understand the distinctions between Jesus and the others, and this they did. Fourthly, total imitation. Now we get beyond the academic side of mastering and understanding to the very practical side of how we live. How a disciple lived was defined by the lifestyle of his rabbi. So when you think of Jesus, when you read of Jesus, when you read of how he related with others, what he did, how simply he lived, how little he possessed, this was understood by the disciples as being a key to following him later on. And then finally, as was true in every Jewish instance that we know of, every rabbi expected his disciple to eventually make disciples in his school. And Matthew 23 speaks about this a lot. Jesus told his disciples, "None of you are to be called rabbi, because you have one teacher, the Christ." In that, he differed from everyone else. Finally, and this should be said, Jesus said in John 13, "A new commandment I give you, that you love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. By this, all men will know you are my disciples, if you love one another." That characteristic of love was absolutely essential. So to the point that Jesus said, "This is my singular commandment."